Welcome to
We're in the pipe. 5 by 5.
Evil Dead, 1981. What more can I say about it other than I love it? This is a film I have watched multiple times, and I've lost track at this point. I currently own it in this Korean box set. I can't say enough good things about Evil Dead because at the end of the day, it's just one of those movies that definitely shaped me as a person growing up and the way that I perceive film and a lot of other things. I'm gonna go straight into this review by saying that this movie is the iconic cabin in the woods getting possessed by demons and killing zombie type of film, you know? Although they're not technically zombies, they're called deadites. But this is the film that back in the day, in 1981, it created that. All the cliches are there, all the tropes are there, the bad acting is there, although it's kind of like corny and precious in its own way. If I could say that this movie has any type of feeling at all, it's the type of film that you would watch cozy on a couch at night with a group of friends, some popcorn, and dim lighting to no lighting. It's that type of film. You can see a lot of the independent influences going into the film because there's just so much behind the scenes that happened that really pulled its way through into the actual screen. You have the shaky cam, which at the time wasn't really a popular thing for like mainstream media. It was more of the independent route, so that was really cool. You get the POV shot as the demon. That's really cool. You see a lot of innovative like angles and shots and movements and stuff. Especially for the budget that they had, this film just has loads of depth and color, and yeah, the story is a little predictable, but I can at least give it some sort of credit. It's fun.
You will die!
Even though there's probably a little bit of pacing issues thrown here and there, there's also a lot of like fast-paced moments, kind of catch you up right to the point where you're gonna be like, oh, okay, that's happening. Oh, okay, this is happening. All right, well, like, we get it. Now we're just thrown into the situation. Especially once all hell breaks loose and the main character, Ash, he's kind of just alone. But like, alone. Mostly surrounded by death and decay. That's where a little bit of the pacing starts to slow down and then turn into, well, a horror. You're creeping around with him. You're going insane with him. And that is probably some of the best sequences. When it comes to weaker sequences, there's definitely some more questionable things. So there are some flaws in terms of story elements like that, but there's also that acting that I was talking about that could pull you out of the film if you're not on board with it. Bruce Campbell, not his best role, but an iconic role. I mean, when you start off with a banger and you only get better and better throughout the years, it's kind of inevitable that your first major role isn't going to be as good, and there are extreme moments of corniness, especially in all the yelling and stuff. But gee, it works. It works for me. San Weiss as his sister, Cheryl Williams. Great performance. I felt like hers was slightly better than Bruce Campbell's in this. There's a lot more reality in it, but there's still that campy, corny screaming that, depending on your taste, could take you out of it. Richard DeManencourt as Scott. Personally, my favorite character in the first Evil Dead movie, but also my favorite character in the video game. Scott was a character that you would expect to be the survivor. I think that also just adds to his acting because he pulls it off as the I'm so brave and macho. Ash, help me, I'm dying. I feel like Teresa Tilly as Shelley doesn't really get a lot of love, but her, even as just a little side character in the background, does add a lot to the friend group, especially when you can at least acknowledge that her acting isn't super over the top, but it's natural. Finally, for the main cast, Betsy Baker as Linda. Oh, Linda. The character of Linda is so iconic throughout the entire franchise, and you can thank Betsy Baker for that because she does an amazing job at just being creepy. She cements the reality when she is upset and scared, when she is possessed and evil. It feels real because her acting is really good in this film. It's the type of acting that kind of reminds you, oh yeah, these are just teenagers in a cabin. They are in danger. I can mostly advise that this type of film is for people who know what they're getting themselves into. If you really like corny and cliche tropes, then this is for you. If you love seeing where classics originate from with all those little horror elements and all the little jump scares and whatnot, this is definitely for you. If you think old movies are lame and you're not really into the independent movement back in the day, well, I'm sorry, you're probably not gonna like this as much as everybody else. Now, if this is a film that I recommend or don't recommend, I can safely say that yes, I do recommend this film, especially if you may not be too into it. At least give it a shot, because there could be some elements that you might end up really liking. There's color, there's style, there's direction, and the story is just interesting enough to keep you on your toes.
Let me out of here. Ashley? Ash, help me. Let me out of here. I'm all right now.
I'm pulling out my phone for this one, which that's actually my microphone. This is actually my wallpaper for my iPhone. It's Evil Dead, the first. Hello! But anyways, I'm pulling out my phone just to kind of elaborate a little bit more on the critique side of things. First off, this is directed by Sam Raimi, which so far he has taken over 2 of my reviews. And although in the last one for Doctor Strange I can say that his style and everything was already there, this is the film where I can confidently say this is where it was all beginning. The inception of a lot of his style, arts, and just creativity comes from Evil Dead. Like I already mentioned, he spent a year, probably longer, but he spent a lot of time alongside Bruce Campbell just kind of doing what he could to make sure that this film was what he wanted, and it was not easy. So when you take that into context, it says a lot. Now, say you don't know anything about it and you just want to critique for critique's sake, you see a lot of things that work and don't. You see a lot of weird angles that work and don't. It's very evident that even though Sam Raimi was not new to the camera, this was his first big project, and it kind of shines in a lot of ways, as well as fall and a couple others. But with time, of course, it would get better. So when it comes to the director, Sam Raimi, it's just simply a magical experience to kind of be like, yeah, this is his first. Although, fun fact, Within the Woods is the short film that inspired Evil Dead, because it was Sam Raimi's original Evil Dead. Like, that was the project that led to this, that led to the franchise, you know? Sometimes the original Evil Dead can be forgotten because the sequel is just so much more iconic, but almost nobody talks about Within the Woods, which I love, even though the only way you could see it is through extremely grainy footage on YouTube. So I hope someday it gets restored, if he even has those tapes. But it really shows a director in at least my last review, where he is now compared to where he started, and how he didn't really lose any of that charm or creativity. It really shines in this film. Now, this film was mostly produced by Robert Tapert. Gonna go back to Within the Woods again. He helped Sam Raimi produce that too, and he's been with Sam Raimi for a lot of the Evil Dead franchise and other films. And it's kind of funny to see the end product and listen back on interviews and documentaries and stuff, because you hear a lot of doubt in like the production of it all, prior to knowing that it would be like a good thing, you know? I would say when it comes to Robert Tapert's production, this is probably not his most iconic, only because it's rivaled by other Evil Dead entries, but just like Sam Raimi, it set the foundation for what he could do and what this franchise could do and what the end result of the movie was. And even to this day, with Evil Dead Rise coming out fairly soon, he's been there. Cinematography comes from Tim Philo, or Philo, I'm gonna assume it's Philo. This was just the cherry on top, because so many of the iconic scenes come from those beautiful shots, beautiful composition, and the beautiful lighting, and the beautiful everything that kind of melded together. You can thank Tim Philo for that alongside Raimi. And for the editor who also turned this film into a magical creation, Edna Ruth Paul, she did an amazing job. I heard a quote that I might fuck up right now. The best editing is invisible. I know I fucked that up for sure. However that quote is spun, it's true. When you can't notice that editing is happening, that's how you know it's good editing. Edna Ruth Paul's cuts and fades and everything, and how she chose to align certain clips alongside each other with Raimi's direction, of course, it was amazing. It doesn't take you out of the experience, and you don't necessarily notice that it's happening unless you yourself edit or you're really into film. Only then can you truly appreciate all the hard work that, at least back then with physical film tape, it was a pain in the ass to do, and Edna probably did some of the best work in her career with Evil Dead, at least personally. So while I can critique this film to the ends of the earth with how bland it is in terms of originality, I have to say, this is the original. This is where all those tropes and cliches come from, the cabin in the woods, the possessed teenagers, and the final survivor not being who you expect. It all originates here. Is it 100% the best? No. Is it 100% the daddy of all these storylines? Hell yeah. And if I had to add a little bit of my own personal bias, it's my favorite of the stories. Believe me when I say, Evil Dead, for as many flaws as it has, is a very, very good film. Now if I had to rank it, I'm going to have to base it off of a little bit of bias, but a whole lot of what it did for the film industry as a whole in terms of stories, and what it did for the horror industry in terms of stories, and what it did creativity and style and indie filmmaking and everything, right? So Evil Dead, to me, the first one, is a solid 8 out of 10. It's not too crazy, but it's just the perfect amount of crazy for you. That was my Evil Dead 1981 review. Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you can go and check out this movie because, hell, go out and check out this movie. Believe me, it's just great. The same way that I described it. Get some friends, make it dark, do a little movie night. Hell, turn it into a drinking game. It might be even better that way. I will see y'all in the next video, whatever that may be. Oh God, I think there's a demon in here.